Mr. Speaker, it is an honor for me to rise once again in this House to represent the good people of Scarborough Southwest. And regardless of the time, day, Friday night, Sunday, I will be here regardless of what day it is and what time it is, because I'm honored and proud to represent the good people of my riding, and it's important to make sure that their voices are heard. Speaker, it's been a difficult week for Ontarians. As a Muslim woman, it's been a difficult week for me and a lot of people in my riding. A Muslim Canadian family in London was murdered by a white supremacist because he hated Muslims. Frankly, that's what it was. And words are not enough to describe, to express the rage, the sadness, and the trauma that the community is experiencing right now, witnessing the loss of the Afzal and Salman family to rampant hate and Islamophobia, leaving a 9-year-old orphaned. This is the state of anti-Muslim hate in our province. But this is not new, Speaker. After all, it was in this legislature that we stood a few months ago begging the Premier, begging this government to not empower a bigot, a well-known Islamophobe, and license him to influence post-secondary education. And when I look at the fact that a 20-year-old individual decided to go out with so much hate, so much aggression, to kill, there is something wrong with our education system, something wrong with our society. And we need to really relook at where we have gone wrong, and our education system is one we have to tackle. We have to make sure we do better. And licensing a bigot and Islamophobe is not the way to go. So there's compounded hatred that's building up, and we have to do better to make sure we silence the people who are standing up for hate, who are Islamophobic, who are standing up for any racism, any discrimination. And we also have to do better to educate people. Mr. Speaker, a lot of Muslims in this province are not safe, and we need real action. So I'm calling on the government to urgently fund the Anti-Racism Directorate. And we need to not just actively condemn this Islamophobia and racism, but also undo the anti-Muslim hate across this province. Speaker, unfortunately, that's not why we're here today. The Premier has lost another court case and is now trying to push through a bill that violates Charter and muzzles free speech and expression. This government is so afraid of their critics, so afraid of teachers, families of children with autism, long-term care advocates, and that might actually shine light in the reality of what this government is doing, that they're so afraid that they want to go ahead and actually undo a court order evoking the Notwithstanding clause, Section 33. Over 130 constituents wrote to me just over the last 2 days. Across Scarborough Southwest, people are outraged. They have taken the time to write to my office about the concern, but also the helplessness that they're feeling. The fact that government's willing to government, that's talking about democracy, that they're willing to stand up here and ram through legislation which undermines people and communities' rights, right to freedom of speech. So I'm standing here today to highlight some of the concerns that I have, and because I have very limited amount of time, I'll just quickly run through a few of the things that I've heard from my constituents. What my constituents are going through, Speaker, it's palpable. Their concerns, I mean, I've heard from parents, I've heard from teachers. Parents are right now at the end of their rope with work, dealing with students, their kids who are students at home, trying to do online learning. Teachers are stretched thin. They're having to learn new software and then overnight and then go through a curriculum the next day. Students are struggling beyond words, feeling completely failed. Youth going through mental health. I mean, young kids now struggling with mental health. Dozens of business owners, and including taxi drivers who I've talked about in this House, taxi drivers who have not received any funding. And if the Minister of Small Businesses and Red Tape Reduction or the Minister of Labour would go through the emails my office have sent to the ministry, they will see the amount of taxi drivers, amount of business owners who have still not received any support from this government. But we're not here to debate that. Speaker, throughout this pandemic, this government has abandoned families, students, teachers, children, business owners, essential workers, and the list goes on. But this bill today we're debating is to undermine democracy. Rather, they're attempting to silence independent groups, and sometimes these groups actually will talk about issues with the NDP or the Liberals or other parties, but that doesn't mean we're going to stand here and actually oppose them or try to silence them, because that's the part of what democracy is all about. So today, I'm calling on this government to truly uphold democracy, because they have failed Ontarians. It's time we debate the real issues that people are facing. Thank you, Speaker.